because Jeremy Jordan is singing these fantastic vocals, and I'm like, oh, but he's
but wait, she's married.
Yes. Hi, I'm Reba Hervis, Artistic Director at Overshadowed Theatrical Productions. Welcome to this week's episode From the Wings with Rebecca Leland. Thank you, Rebecca, for joining me again. We have had an amazing time. This is our last review of our whirlwind trip. This afternoon, we went to see The Great Gatsby. Now, I have to tell you, we went into it probably being weeks ago when we first bought our tickets, being super excited because Jeremy Jordan was probably a highlight, right?
Yes.
And also just Great Gatsby is classic literature. In fact, you even read the book because of it, right?
Yep.
And so it was one of those things that we were really looking forward to. And then all of a sudden the Tony nominations came out.
And we're like,
what happened to this show? In fact, it only got nominated for one Tony, and that was for costume design, which I will say they deserve because the costumes were sparkly, glitzy. In fact, I leaned over at one time to Rebecca and I was like, dude, those men's suits, and I'm digging those shoes.
She said, it's the men's blue shoes for me.
And they were so cool. They were like blue suede shoes.
Yes.
But they had like diamond studs around the heels.
And they were tap shoes. It was the tappers.
It was amazing.
Oh my word.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
It was everything that I really kind of wanted it to be. The whole proscenium had this Art Deco look. And there was a projection screen that was the beautiful lake with a lighthouse in the distance, and you could hear the water flowing, and it just was beautiful. It set the mood, I thought, perfectly.
I totally agree.
And then the opening number comes, and it's energetic, and it feels like it's the 20s.
Beautiful flapper dresses with just studs galore.
And the choreography. They did this beautiful thing where they're like, making these movements and then stopping, but then they're moving together as a group. And I just loved it. It caught me up right away. Mm-hmm. The story, as you may well know, is based on a novel by F. Scott Fitzgerald that was published in 1925. It has, I think, seen a massive rewrite since then. And so since you just read it, I'm going to ask you to tell us what's different about the things that really stood out to you in the musical versus
the actual book. So it told the whole story. Like, you got the story of Gatsby throughout the entirety of the play, but it almost felt like it was writing in some commentary between the scenes, because they took directly from the book. There were a lot of lines that were directly from the book. But the lead named Nick, who is actually the narrator of the entire show, he has a love interest, and they definitely hyped up their story. So they did some things that actually did not appear in the book. And you saw why they did that.
I'm going to make this point because usually Broadway might sometimes go the opposite way, but this time they made him clearly heterosexual. Yeah. And I don't think he is clearly that in the book.
Or there has, in the book, he does have a relationship with this woman. It just doesn't go as far as they took it, if that makes sense.
Got it.
And there's just some moments in the show that she was not there for in the book that they had her be a very prominent part, which I'm not mad at. Actually, I really enjoyed diving into her character.
I thought that was really interesting. They kind of gave her this quirky character, though. She had like this, when you first see her, she kind of has this Katharine Hepburn kind of pants on, but her hair is like Barbara Streisand's bob, And so she instantly catches your attention because she looks so different from everybody else. So of course, she's golfing.
She played her character really well.
She did.
Because the character in the book, she is very much so independent, Miss Independent, and she's very much so like Miss Forward. And like their relationship, they just did I would say it enhanced everything that was in the book. I wouldn't say they went too far to rewrite it to where you're like, oh, that wouldn't happen. It was believable.
The other area that I feel like I'm sad that they did not get a Tony nomination for, and that is Jeremy Jordan's portrayal of Gatsby, because I felt like it was unlike anything I've ever seen Jeremy Jordan do. His vocals were lead that I wanted to hear all week. I mean, he's just amazing, and he was amazing in this part. He played Gatsby in a way that was quirky but still likable, and even though he was a flawed character, you kind of wanted to forgive him for it because he just seemed to want to love Daisy with all of his heart, and you kind of rooted for that, even though you knew he was a flawed character.
Oh yeah,
I think he deserved a nomination.
Yeah.
He didn't get it, so I'll back off of that.
I was very surprised, I think, by him. Because in the beginning, I don't think I liked how he portrayed Gatsby right off the bat. Because I'm like, I don't know, he's changing his voice a little bit. And it's definitely Jeremy Jordan. Like, that's the hard part about being a star. Is you're like, I've seen you before, you know?
Yeah.
But I actually really enjoyed the way that he, shared this, like, obsessive love for rewriting the past. And I think he did it really well.
Okay, I'm just going to say it. It's definitely a trigger warning. There were in the first act, because it is those of you who have read the classic novel know that there is an illicit love affair. In fact, there's several, and there's wild sex that are happening at these parties. I mean, the book is about
it's very
these
sexual
parties, right? And so for the first half, I was feeling quite uncomfortable, especially with the fact that I'm kind of rooting for the love story because Jeremy Jordan is singing these fantastic vocals, and I'm like, oh, but
yes, but wait, she's married.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And so there was this guilt reflex in me because I really loved what they did with it so much to the point that I felt guilty that I was liking it, right? So there's definitely things about it that I think you have to be careful watching. However, they did it very tastefully. So if you can get past that, this is what the story is about, and it's this novel that basically exposes the evil in people. And even, I think, when he gets to the end of it, because you kind of root for this sympathetic Daisy character who at the end of it is like, oh, but I'm a woman, and so he couldn't have all the things that you have. But in the end of it, she's really just as shallow as everybody else. And I think that that's really what the novel is about. There's just, we're all flawed. We really are. And so some of us are deep desires for love, and others it's money, and others it's power. But at the end of it, we're all just humans making mistakes all the time.
And I think it's being believers. I think it's definitely a mature show. So I would say, just because it's a novel and just because it's famous does not mean, everyone should go see it, right?
Absolutely.
100% no. Definitely a lot of sexual content. But in the end, especially watching it as believers, you watch it and you say, every single one of those characters was selfish. Even Great
100%.
Gatsby, especially Great Gatsby, he didn't care about her 5 years after down the road, because even all the beautiful wealth that he had was built on lies, because it was built on this like drug trade or something that they were trading that I don't know if they ever said what it was.
They said it was bootlegging, so alcohol.
Oh, bootlegging.
Yeah.
I was like, they would have said the boxes, and I was like, I don't know what that is.
Yeah, they said bootlegging.
It's this idea that like he didn't love her, he loved the way she made him feel.
Right.
And like everything about it, it just in the end so much crumbled, and it just crumbled down to selfishness and self-seeking. And that's why watching it, like I was definitely uncomfortable with some of the scenes in the beginning, but it was not glorified.
No.
And it was not a story.
And we always say that that's kind of our thermometer, right? It's like how is it portrayed at the end of it? Do they get away with it?
Are you going to share it? Why are you sharing it? Why are you sharing this information with me? And I feel like Great Gatsby shares it in a way to warn people. Yeah. And I think it is in a very beautiful way that I had never really read before, and I never heard it said that way before. And watching it and like the music just captivating.
The music was beautiful. It really was.
Oh my word.
I was mesmerized by a lot of it. There was so many things that I just thought it was just a beautiful show. It really was an emotional experience in some ways, but only because it, again, points out the depravity of man. And it always makes you feel a little sad when you see that. When you see that this could be a great love, but...
Yeah. The one part I was thrilled that they had is one of my favorite quotes from the book. And I feel like that was like, it summed up just like...
So true.
The feeling of Great Gatsby and the lesson of it.
So what would you give this overall?
An 8.
An 8 out of 10. Ooh, and that's hard for me after I blasted Outsiders.
But she really loved it, don't worry.
I think I'm going to give it a 7.5 for Gatsby.
You're dead to
so,
me. But until next time, it's just me.
And me.
Talking to you
from the wings.
From New York!